Everybody, it's Haley Hobson, and I'm super excited to have my friend Shauna Menaurd on with us today. She is an amazing woman, seriously. Like, this woman is incredible. She's gone to medical school, she's had a heavy travel schedule, she started new businesses after that, and she has done all of this while she's raised small children. So I wanted to bring her on today so that she could talk to you about like what her career path has been, why she's gone the different directions that she's gone, and what she's even doing today. Welcome, Shauna.
Oh, thank you, Haley. It's a pleasure and honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. It was so fantastic meeting you just a couple of weeks ago, and you really inspired me. And I wanted everybody to hear your story because I think it's so wonderful. So will you just tell us a little bit, first of all, just tell us about your family, what's going on at home, and how you started your first, I should say, career path.
Sure. Well, I have 4 sons right now, 4 boys. I live in a house full of boys, even 2 dogs, and there's still male as well. So I am that lone woman. And my career path really started at my first big turning point when I was 14. And my grandmother died of cancer, and I never wanted anyone to go through what she did or have a family go through what we did. So that really started my core mission, that is my same mission that's today, is to have people live their longest, healthiest, happiest lives. So I went to medical school, and that seems logical, and I've been a medical doctor for 24 years. And but the problem was, and that's been satisfying on some levels, absolutely. And my core why, and I think it's really important for people to have a why you're doing this, because as medical school was tough and those long hours, you're going to ask yourself, why am I doing this? And I could go back to why I was doing it. But fast forward 24 years as a doctor, and are we any healthier? And no, cancer, diabetes, heart disease are all on the rise. So I really started looking at myself as well, because at that point I saw, you know what, I'm exhausted, I am bloated with stress. And in fact, there was another turning point day that happened, and I don't think I shared that with you before, but there was a turning point day at the hospital, and one morning, in fact, all in one morning, 2 physicians committed suicide. I heard about 2 physicians committing suicide, and 1 woman physician I diagnosed with breast cancer. And that was like a light bulb moment for me, because I looked at myself and I said, you know what, if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm going down the same path. I was really, really stressed out, and I knew there had to be a better way. So I started looking into what does it mean to be healthy, and what can we do about that. And having those 4 kids, I also had 4 of them in 5 3/4 years, which I definitely don't recommend. That was much. Talk about overachiever.
How old are your kids now?
They are, so I started a while ago on this journey, but my oldest one turns 18 April 15th, so just coming up, and he is, so then there's 18, 15, 13, and 12. So they're pretty much all coming into teenage years. But I started when they were young on this path, as I branched out and became a health coach. Was my next thing that I did. So
can I interrupt you for 1 second before you talk about, you know, taking that leap of, you didn't give up your medical career. I understand that you were still practicing while you're going to school to be a health coach, but that was sort of like a jumping off the cliff for the first time. So I do want to address that in a second. But what was it like to be raising 4 small children while you were either going through medical school or starting a medical practice? Because I mean, I know what it's like having a career where I actually work from home, and it's still, and I only have 1 small child, and it's still hard. So can you talk about that for a second? Because I think that as women, we get super overwhelmed with wanting our life to be perfect, and wanting our children to be raised really well, and wanting to be there for them, but at the same time feeling like we have, first of all, our own goals, desires, wants, passions, but also the need to actually take care of them financially and ourselves.
Right, yes. And I had my first son when I was just finishing residency in my 4th year. And there might not be a great time. There's never a great time. That probably really was the worst time that you could start a family. But I started it really, I'm a radiologist is my subspecialty, so nice and romantic. I timed my children when I wasn't going to be exposed to radiation. And here's your one chance. And so I wanted to have a family. That's always something I wanted, but it was a lot. So a couple of things that helped me survive. I don't think I was born organized. I always had an organized friend. All through growing up school, my best friend was super organized. They tell me when the assignments were due. They tell me when what we had to know for this test. So I always was pretty good at aligning myself with at least somebody who was organized. And that really helped. I always wished I was, and I have become an uber organized person, and that's what has allowed me to survive. And I think people think I was always that way, but I was forced into it, kicking and screaming. But it really was survival, is I had to become organized.
You know, that's a good point that you make, because I'm in a business right now, and I know you are too, and you can talk about that in a second, where we're actually grooming and mentoring a lot of people to build businesses. And I have people coming to me all the time wanting bits and pieces of information that I could easily give them, but I actually try not to, so that they can learn to be organized and learn to step up to the plate to be successful themselves.
Yes. And actually there's an interesting thing, because struggle is actually part of the process, unfortunately. There is a little bit of grunt work that is part of your grooming and a part of your development. And in fact, if you take a cocoon and you see that caterpillar struggling to become a butterfly, and you want to help it out by cutting a little slit in it to help it so it's not such a struggle, that butterfly will die. They'll never fly. And so part of that is part of our natural evolution. So that was my grooming process. And but what I found is it's really important, and it makes your life easier when you can be organized. And everybody will have their own way of doing that. I like to teach my team and the people that I help coach about a few things. One, balance and boundaries, focus and finish, and divide and conquer. So divide and conquer, when I had this massive stuff to learn in medical school or in residency, I mean, if you look at how much you have to read, it can be overwhelming and you don't even want to start. And likewise, as an entrepreneur, the stuff that you have to do, there's websites and there's tech and there's helping people and actually doing your job. There's so many things. And then you have family and friends and so many commitments. So sometimes it helps to divide and conquer. So even my house was, I had this beautiful dream home in Manitoba. Just to think about cleaning and organizing it was overwhelming. So focus on something that was manageable. Now, after I'd had my 4 kids, I would have 4 and 5 years. So I would lose all but 5 pounds, and then I would get pregnant again. So this was before I had dealt with network marketing or any of those, or even health coaching for that matter. And I found myself, 5 pounds over. Well, that's not bad. Times 4, that's 20 pounds, plus 10 from high school, that's 30 pounds. And at that point, I was working at the hospital on call, and I was raising I have 4 kids under 5. I can't go to the gym for an hour. That's not possible. So I thought, what can I do? And I focused on, I thought, well, I'm going to make a commitment, a small enough commitment that I know that I'll commit to 100%. So I said, I'm going to be active 10 minutes, just 10 minutes a day, non-negotiable. Before my head hits the pillow, I will have done something active. And if I can do multi-purpose, where it's kicking a soccer ball with my kids, fantastic. So it's spending time with my kids, it's getting outdoors, and it's my exercise all at once. And that's what I really like to talk to people about. Not so much multitasking, but multi-purpose. So if you can enjoy a social evening, and it's a business meeting as well, and it's and doing an activity that you like to do, or a fitness event that you like to do, that's perfect. And that's why I love being an entrepreneur, because we get to incorporate our business into our everyday life, and that helps to multi-purpose our day without getting distracted with trying to do 10 things at once but really doing none, if that makes sense. But with that, I mean, that was really successful in having me lose and release my baby weight. So being organized, making that commitment to yourself, and then setting up things. So the way I've gone through this last portion, where I've got kind of a number of jobs on the go, is really looking at a calendar and having a template. So what I find is if I put those things that are important to me on a calendar, it's really helpful. So Saturday night is our date night. Now, I wasn't always great with the calendar. I know how to do these things now because I did it all wrong at the beginning. And 10 years, my husband and I never went out. We had 4 kids in 5 years. You have 4 kids. Who wants to look after those? You can't hire a 12-year-old babysitter to look after 4 babies. So we were kind of stuck. But I made a commitment because it was really important that my husband and I have a great relationship, and we do. We've been married 22 years now, but we make that commitment. Saturday night is our time. Friday night is our family movie night, and those are times on the calendar that are for that. Then I also, as an entrepreneur, have had to create a schedule for myself of when is my work time and then when's my off time, so that when it's work time, even if it's home in my home office, it's great. When do I go in there and when am I on? And it's really important to be organized and have that work so that when you're working, you're focusing on work. You're not thinking, what am I having for dinner tonight, or do I have to put the laundry in, or any of those things. When it's laundry time, it's laundry time.
Well, funny you said that, because I don't know if you noticed, but as we were starting this call today, I have somebody that comes over to my house now and helps me for 3 hours a day with all of I call her my house, I call her my house manager. My mom calls her my wife. But anyway, she comes in right before this. She comes in right before this, and she starts talking to me about what we're gonna have for dinner, and and I was like, I can't talk right now. It's work time. I'm talking to Shauna. She's waiting on the phone. My mind can't even take, because when you like you said, when you go in and you decide it's going to be work time, you have to focus and remove everything else out, because as moms and as entrepreneurs that have a lot of things going on, possibly we only have a certain amount of quiet time during the day where there's nobody around bothering us, that we can get done those focused work activities. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, and you mentioned something there about that quiet time, and that is something I think it's important for people to know themselves. I'm one of those people who's prone to burnout and exhaustion. I'll just keep running and doing and doing and doing until it's like there's nothing left. And other people, and I think that's probably the majority of people who are in our position, who are successful, who are entrepreneurs. And there are people who, just can't seem to find the motivation to get off the couch. And that's usually because they're overwhelmed with that huge list of things to do, and they can't divide and conquer it and break it down into something that they can do, managing it. But having that quiet time has been something that has saved me. So in order to get that quiet time in a house full of 4 boys and 2 dogs and lots going on, I get up early. That's my secret weapon. So because you know what, the guys don't want to. So they're fine to sleep in. So if I get up at 5, I can find that time for me to do my meditation. That is one of the things that has grounded me, gets me in touch with what are my core values, keeps me on track, and I just find it makes my life more magical and allows things to come into my sphere like this, and opportunities and meeting great people that maybe I wouldn't otherwise. So I do that, do a little bit of journaling, and then get right into my exercise. If I don't do my exercise personally for me, first thing in the day, somebody is at me. And I do that before I look at my phone or my Facebook or my email.
Good for you. I do the opposite. I lay in bed, I wake up in the morning, and I pull out my phone, and I'm still trying to wake up. I'm going through all the emails from the night before. Then I put it aside. Then I go exercise. I just have to clean my brain out for a little bit and know that there's nothing waiting there for me first thing in the morning. But whatever works for people, right?
Whatever works, and there's no such thing as perfection. It's not like every day it runs tickety-boo like that, not always. And if I'm later in my schedule because the night was later, well then, there's going to be some of that. But it was through trial and error, and what I found was if I looked at that phone, I wasn't even out of bed, and it's boom, 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 and I'm in reactive crisis mode, and somebody else is controlling my day rather than me.
Right.
And at least I've got, something for me in there, and I feel that keeps me nourished, and you and I were both at Les Brown's event recently, a speaking thing, and his daughter, Ona Brown, said something that I thought was really, really great. And she said, give to yourself so much, because so many of us give, 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 and there's nothing left, and you can't give when your cup is empty. But she says, give to yourself so much that you can give from the overflow. And I love that, because if you've nourished yourself so much, and you're this happy, shiny, great, awesome person, then you can't help but give that all away, and that's really attractive, and that is serving everybody very well. But when you're depleted, and as a physician, I see that all the time, people who, especially women, who have given all to their families, given everything, and they're not even on their to-do list, they're not on the priority list, they're not at the bottom of the list, they're not even on the list, and they haven't done anything for themselves. And it doesn't require a lot of money, and it doesn't require a lot of time. 5 minutes in the morning, some deep breaths. And when it was crazy at the hospital, sometimes I would go into the bathroom at the hospital and just breathe, like just breathe. Because otherwise, people just at you. And if you're in that situation where you just feel like you're pulled in a million directions, find some way to do that. Sometimes it was in my car in the garage. When the kids were little, not so much now, they're so much easier now, but when they were little and it got nuts, 4 kids can get nuts, and I would just go into, like, it's not a proud moment, but I would go into my car in the garage and I would scream. Just scream.
Well, I want to bring something up, because I think that's a really good point. I want to actually address the fact, just real quick, yes, that it is normal to have those moments. It's normal for your kids to be pulling at you. It's normal for your husband or partner or spouse or wife to be pulling at you. It's normal for your patients to be pulling at you. It's normal for the people that are on your team to be pulling at you. It's normal for I have days where I can't stop the phone, the text, the message. It's like crisis mood all day long. But if you are a successful entrepreneur, and you're the one that's managing most of your business, that is what's going to happen. So I just want to say that that's normal. I don't want people to feel in panic mode when they feel like that's happening to them. So I want to just have one more question for you, because I know that I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I know, like, you talked a little bit about, going through medical school, raising those kids. It was this dream of yours to give back to the community and to be healthy, because you had your relative with cancer, and then you decided that that wasn't really healthy, and you went back and became a health coach. And that was probably scary, because you had a full-time career and you had patients all day long, and I know you used to commute on a plane a couple days to work, and you also had a family with the 4 boys and the 2 dogs at home, and now recently you've just decided to actually say goodbye to your medical career because you found something else that's even more rewarding. And I want to talk about what it means to just follow your heart and follow your dreams. So could you just spend another minute or two talking about that before we leave?
Absolutely, and it's so huge, and I've got kind of chills now, because I can't believe it's a process and it's a journey, and it does take a bit of guts, but it's the right thing to do, and you really have to follow your heart. It's the healthiest thing to do, and the moment that I actually decided that I was going to leave my medical career to pursue my core mission of having people live their longest, healthiest lives, everything started to line up. There were so many obstacles to getting there, and it was almost like everything was so uncomfortable, like that tight cocoon, and it was time to sort of just spread your wings and fly, and everything has just lined up. And all of those fears that I had of this was going to happen, and this was going to happen, and what if, people won't respect me, and we'll have no money, we'll be out on the street. All of these fears kind of come up, and they're not true. They're not true. And if it's meant to be, just follow your heart. Now, the other thing that I did that's really important is I didn't sort of have this idea and quit immediately. I did both. So I've been that doctor for 24 years. This process probably started 7 years, and then I've been in network marketing 3 years. And it's gotten to that point where, it's time now. It's time. And I think you'll know when everything is just lining up, and it's really difficult to sustain going in 3 or 4 different directions. And you really want to, if you could channel your energy into following your passion, following what's important to you and your bliss, then everything just all of a sudden becomes easy. And then that's a clue that, yes, it's confirmation that you've made the right decision. I mean, you seek expert counsel, get advice from people, but everybody told me, don't quit your job. Everybody told me they believed in me, but don't quit your job. And it ultimately had to come from here, and just like, it's meant to be. And actually, I must say, Haley, that you inspired me as well. To hear that you were a lawyer, another professional, and you just said, no, this is not healthy. This isn't what I'm wanting to do, and to transition over. And look at how awesome it's been. I mean, and you look at those success stories, and I think that's the purpose.
This was actually, like, I built a whole other business after law school, teaching Pilates, teaching yoga, managing studios, teaching teacher trainings that was very successful, and I let that go also to do what I'm doing now, which is so much more fulfilling. So I agree with you 1,000%. When it's time to make moves, you make the moves. When it's time to follow your heart, you listen to it, and you will always be right when you follow your heart.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's fantastic.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on with us today. I know that everybody had a pleasure listening to you, and it's always great to connect with you, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure, Haley.